The Do Nation Foundation aims to put a damper on gender-based violence through its newly launched project under the heading Engendering Change by Playing Your Part. Diane Felicia, CEO and founder for Do Nation Foundation, spoke at the project launch.
Today we are launching a very important project, which is Engendering the Change by Playing Your Part. This project is funded by the Government of Canada through their CFLI initiative. What we are doing is working with our young people in terms of making them advocates for change. We see a lot of our family, and it seems to be a norm in Saint Lucia where things are passed down. So what we are doing is working with our youth so that they could be champions for trying to stop gender-based violence, and we will be doing it through various creative ways, through training and development for our champions, through social media campaign, through street theater, and also through our advocacy bus. So we'll have a lot of our young people. You'd see them on social media, you'd see them in your community, you would see them on the television, because what we want to do is to get that message across that gender-based violence, it has to stop.
In making this project successful, Felicia applauded the efforts and support from its local stakeholders.
The other thing is there will be a level of advocacy in terms of us working with various stakeholders. One of our key partners is the vulnerable units of the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force, and we work together so that how we as the NGO can make a meaningful change or meaningful contribution towards the work that they are already doing.
The Do Nation founder addressed the significance of involving the youth in addressing gender-based violence. Speaking on behalf of a key stakeholder, Cicely Baptist, Sergeant in charge of the Vulnerable Persons team, spoke on the various forms of domestic violence and the affected demographics.
Domestic violence take different forms. We see psychological, we see verbal, we see economic, and also given the technology that we that's available to us right now, we see a lot of cyber offenses relating to the internet and cybercrime. I would say that the young people are more vulnerable. We see young parents, we see persons who have, who have children, but they are not the parenting skills are not all that. So we are faced with more of the reports involving the younger people. And also in regards to care of their children, verbal abuse being one of the prevalent, forms of abuse.
The cycle of gender-based violence usually stems from the experience of a child. Sergeant Baptist shed insight into this phenomenon.
From my experience at the Vulnerable Persons team, I have realized that persons who have been exposed to domestic violence or gender-based violence, they replicate what it is they have seen, or the seed that was planted in them. You can expect them to produce certain things. So some persons may believe certain actions are not associated with domestic violence, or they are of the belief that this is not going to affect the child in the long run, but it does affect persons, and we see on a daily basis, speaking to persons, they would tell you that they come from a home where the mother was being abused, the father was not providing financially, so it has an effect. And like I said, based on what we are seeing, you can tell just from an interview, from interacting with the person, you can derive from that whether they have been exposed to abuse of any form.
Kishma Serie, ambassador for the Engendering Change by Everyone Doing Their Part project, spoke on how the recently introduced domestic violence bill ties into the efforts of the Do Nation Foundation in addressing gender-based violence.
What Saint Lucia has done after 22 years is in 2022, we introduced the domestic violence bill. It's a progressive bill. Other Caribbean countries want to piggyback and learn from the bill. So even with that, which has encompassed so much, we now want to sensitize the public And we recognize that it cannot be just government doing everything. Institutions, charities, foundations, as well as members of the public have a responsibility to do so. So letting persons who need the protection know what is in place to protect them. Letting persons who are perpetrators of the various acts of violence being aware as well, because there is that aspect that you have to cater for, not just the persons who need protection, but the persons who are also doing the acts of violence.
The project aims to engage youth in its efforts to end gender-based violence in St. Lucia by raising awareness and creating lasting solutions to this pressing issue. For Choice News Now, I am Dyred Lionel.